Clara had been married to Marcus for 11 years. 11 years of waking up next to a man who smelled of success and expensive cologne. 11 years of attending galas, charity events, and board meetings where she stood silently by his side like a beautiful decoration. Marcus was a billionaire. He owned hotels, airlines, and a tech company that people around the world used every single day. Clara had met him when she was 22, fresh out of university with a degree in architecture. He had swept her off her feet with private jets, trips to Paris, and promises of a life filled with love and adventure. But somewhere between the second and third year of marriage, the adventure stopped. The love became quiet. The private jets became hers alone while he stayed behind for business meetings. Clara never complained. She told herself that this was what marriage looked like after a decade. She filled her days with charity work, yoga classes, and lunch dates with other wealthy wives who talked about their children and their nannies. Clara and Marcus did not have children. He had said he wanted to wait, to focus on building his empire, and she had agreed. So the house felt empty most days. A mansion with 20 bedrooms and no small feet running through the halls. She spent hours in her garden, growing roses and lavender, pretending that the quiet was peace. The discovery happened on a Thursday. Marcus had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he took a call in the study. Clara never looked through his phone. She believed in trust, in the promises they had made. But the screen lit up with a message that she could not ignore. The name on the screen said Samantha. The message said, "Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again." Clara's hands began to shake. She picked up the phone. The screen locked before she could read more, but those words burned into her eyes like fire. Last night, Marcus had told her he was working late. He had come home at 2 in the morning, smelling of whiskey and something sweet, like vanilla perfume. She had believed him. For 3 days, Clara said nothing. She watched Marcus closely. She noticed the way he smiled at his phone, the way he took calls in the bathroom, the way he came home later and later each evening. She noticed that he had stopped kissing her on the forehead before leaving for work. She noticed that he looked at her the way someone looks at an old piece of furniture, comfortable but unnoticed. On the third night, she followed him. She had never done anything like this before. She felt sick with fear and shame. She parked her car 2 blocks away from a restaurant called the Emerald, a place she had never heard of. She watched Marcus walk inside, and 30 minutes later, a young woman in a red dress arrived. Clara watched them through the window. They sat close together. They held hands across the table. Marcus laughed in a way she had not heard him laugh in years. He looked alive. Clara sat in her car for an hour. She did not cry. She did not scream. Something cold and quiet grew inside her chest. She drove home, went to bed, and when Marcus crawled into bed at midnight, she pretended to be asleep. She felt his hand touch her shoulder for a moment, then pull away. That touch, so small and meaningless, told her everything she needed to know. He did not love her. Maybe he never had. Maybe he had loved the idea of her, the wife who looked good in photographs, who never asked for too much, who stayed quiet and pretty while he built his empire. The next morning, Clara did something she had never done before. She called her lawyer. Not Marcus's lawyer, her own. She had met David Bennett 3 years ago when he helped her set up a small foundation for women in need. He was a sharp man with kind eyes, and he had always treated her like a person, not a billionaire's wife. She told him everything. David listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, "What do you want to do, Clara?" She thought about it for a long moment. She wanted to scream. She wanted to burn his clothes. She wanted to drive to that restaurant and throw a glass of wine at the woman in the red dress. But none of those things would change anything. So she said, "I want to build something that he cannot take away." David helped her understand her rights. In the state where they lived, Clara was entitled to half of everything. Half of the hotels, half of the airlines, half of the tech company. But she did not want half. She wanted something much bigger. She wanted to make sure that when she walked away, Marcus would feel it. Not in his bank account, in his heart, in his pride, in the one place where he was most vulnerable. Marcus was a man who cared deeply about his reputation. He had built his entire life on being seen as a good man, a generous man, a man who took care of his family. The affair with Samantha would destroy that image if it became public. But Clara did not want revenge. She wanted transformation. Over the next 2 weeks, Clara began to quietly change her life. She opened a secret bank account with the money her mother had left her years ago. She hired a private investigator to gather proof of the affair. She enrolled in online courses to refresh her architecture skills. She had not designed a building in 11 years, but the knowledge was still there, buried under the weight of being a good wife. Every night, while Marcus was out with Samantha, Clara sat in her home office and drew. She sketched houses, libraries, community centers. She remembered why she had loved architecture in the first place. It was the art of creating spaces where people could live, love, and grow. She realized that she had been living in a space that was not her own. Marcus's money, Marcus's house, Marcus's rules. It was time to build something for herself. The private investigator returned with photographs, text messages, and credit card receipts. Marcus had been seeing Samantha for 8 months. He had bought her a car, an apartment, and a necklace worth $50,000. Clara looked at the evidence without crying. She felt something strange. Not anger, not sadness, just a deep, quiet certainty. She was done, but she was not going to leave the way everyone expected. She was not going to beg, or scream, or collapse. She was going to walk away so powerfully that Marcus would spend the rest of his life wondering what happened. On a Friday evening, Marcus told Clara he had to work late. She smiled and said, "Of course, darling. Have a good night." As soon as he left, she called Samantha. She had found her number through the investigator. Samantha answered on the second ring. Clara said, "This is Clara, Marcus's wife. I think we need to talk." There was a long silence. Then Samantha said, "I'm so sorry." And to Clara's surprise, she meant it. They agreed to meet the next morning at a small coffee shop. Clara hung up the phone and looked around the mansion. The marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the paintings that cost more than most people's homes. None of it mattered. What mattered was what she was about to do next. Samantha arrived at the coffee shop wearing no makeup and a simple gray sweater. She looked younger than Clara expected, maybe 25, with nervous eyes and trembling hands. Clara ordered 2 cups of tea and sat down across from her. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Then Samantha started crying. She said that Marcus had told her he was separated. He had said that Clara knew about the divorce and that they were just waiting for the paperwork. He had promised her a future, a ring, a wedding in Italy. Clara listened without interrupting. She felt strange. She should hate this woman, but she only felt pity. Samantha was not a villain. She was a victim too, just in a different way. Clara said, "I'm not here to yell at you. I'm here to give you a choice." She explained that she was leaving Marcus. She explained that she had proof of the affair and that she could destroy his reputation with a single phone call. But she did not want to do that. Instead, she wanted Samantha to help her. Not for revenge, for freedom. Clara had a plan that would allow Samantha to walk away clean, with no scandal, no public shame, and no Marcus. In exchange, Samantha would tell Clara everything. Every message, every meeting, every promise. Samantha agreed immediately. She had already started to see Marcus's true colors. He was controlling, jealous, and quick to anger. She was afraid of him. Clara promised to protect her. Over the next month, Clara worked with David to prepare for the divorce. But she also worked on something else. She formed a team of women who had been hurt by powerful men. A graphic designer, a journalist, a social media strategist. Together, they built a campaign. Not a campaign to destroy Marcus, a campaign to build something new. Clara decided to launch her own architecture firm, focused on affordable housing for single mothers. She used the story of her marriage not as a weapon, but as fuel. Every time she wanted to give up, she remembered the feeling of sitting in her car outside that restaurant. She remembered the woman in the red dress. She remembered the cold, quiet certainty that she would never be invisible again. The day of the divorce filing, Clara did something unexpected. She invited the press. Not the tabloids. Reputable journalists who covered business and philanthropy. She stood outside the courthouse in a simple blue dress, no diamonds, no designer bag. She looked nothing like a billionaire's wife. She looked like a woman who had been through a storm and was still standing. She read a short statement. She said, "My marriage is ending. That is sad. But what is not sad is the opportunity to begin again. I am launching a foundation to build safe, beautiful homes for women who are starting over. Every woman deserves a place to call her own. I learned that the hard way." Then she walked away. She did not mention the affair. She did not mention Samantha. She did not mention Marcus's cruelty. She simply left. The media went wild. Not because of scandal, because of grace. Headlines read, "Billionaire's wife chooses dignity over drama." Women around the world wrote to Clara, sharing their own stories of betrayal and survival. Her foundation received millions in donations within the first week. Marcus, meanwhile, was furious. He had expected Clara to beg. He had expected her to fall apart. Instead, she had become a hero. His lawyers called her lawyers. They offered her a settlement. A big one. Clara refused. She said she wanted nothing from Marcus except what was legally hers. Half. And she wanted it in cash, not in stocks or properties. She wanted to build her own empire. Marcus tried to fight back. He told his friends that Clara was crazy, that she had made up the affair, that she was just after his money. But the evidence Clara had gathered was flawless. And Samantha, brave Samantha, agreed to give a sworn statement about everything Marcus had told her. When Marcus learned that Samantha had turned against him, he broke. He called Clara screaming. He threatened to destroy her. Clara listened calmly and said, "Marcus, you already tried to destroy me. You ignored me for 11 years. You made me feel small, but I am not small. I never was. You just refused to see me." She hung up, and for the first time in 11 years, she felt free. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Clara walked away with $400 million. Marcus tried to appeal, tried to delay, tried everything, but the judge ruled in Clara's favor. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus's reputation, the thing he cared about most, was in pieces. Not because Clara had destroyed it, because he had destroyed it himself. The newspapers ran stories about the affair, about the lies, about the apartment and the necklace and the promises he never intended to keep. Marcus's business partners grew uncomfortable. His board of directors asked questions. Within a year, he had stepped down as CEO of his own company. He disappeared from the public eye, living in a rented apartment with no one to blame but himself. Clara did not celebrate. She did not throw a party or post a victory message on social media. She simply went to work. She used her settlement to buy a large piece of land outside the city. On that land, she built her first project, a community of small, beautiful homes for single mothers leaving abusive relationships. She designed every house herself. Open kitchens, big windows, gardens in the back where children could play. She named the community New Beginnings. When the first families moved in, Clara was there to hand them the keys. She watched a young woman with 2 small children walk into her new home. The woman started crying. Clara started crying too. She understood. She had been given a key to her own new beginning, and now she was passing it on. The foundation grew faster than anyone expected. Clara hired other women architects, other women builders, other women who had been told they were not enough. Together, they built homes in 5 different states. Then 10, then 20. Clara's face appeared on magazine covers. She was invited to speak at conferences, at universities, at the White House. She always told the same story, not the story of betrayal, the story of discovery. She said, "I learned that being invisible is a choice. For 11 years, I chose to be invisible because I thought that was love. But love does not make you small. Love makes you grow. When I found out about the other woman, I could have become bitter. I could have become angry. Instead, I became awake." Audiences gave her standing ovations. Men and women alike felt the power of her words. 2 years after the divorce, Clara received a letter. It was from Samantha. She had moved to a small town in Oregon, opened a bakery, and met a kind man who fixed bicycles for a living. She was happy, truly happy. She thanked Clara for not destroying her, for seeing her as a person, for giving her the courage to walk away from Marcus before he could hurt her more. Clara wrote back a short note. She said, "I am glad you are happy. That is all any of us want. Take care of yourself." She sealed the letter and mailed it, feeling a strange sense of peace. There was no anger left in her heart, no bitterness, just the quiet satisfaction of a life built on her own terms. Marcus tried to contact her once. A year after the divorce, he showed up at one of her foundation events. He looked older, thinner, smaller. He walked up to her and said, "I made a mistake. I want you back." Clara looked at him. She saw the man she had married, the man who had promised her the world, the man who had slowly erased her until she barely existed. And she felt nothing. Not love, not hate, just nothing. She said, "Marcus, you don't want me back. You want the life you had back. And that life is gone. You killed it, not me." Then she turned around and walked away. She walked back to the group of women she was working with, back to the blueprints spread across a table, Back to the future she was building with her own two hands. Today, Clara is 52 years old. Her foundation has built over 2,000 homes. And every morning, she wakes up and looks in the mirror and sees a woman who is seen. A woman who is enough. A woman who took the worst moment of her life and turned it into a gift for the world. The story of Clara and Marcus spread far and wide. Some people called it a revenge story. Others called it a survival story. But Clara calls it something else. She calls it a story of waking up. Because for 11 years, she was asleep. She was sleepwalking through a life that was not her own. And when she finally opened her eyes, she did not see a tragedy. She saw an opportunity to build, to grow, to become the person she had always been meant to be. And that, she says, is the only revenge that matters. Not destruction, creation, not falling apart, coming together, not ending, beginning.